Welcome, all my relations. I'm grandmother Dr. Anita Sanchez. I'm Nahua, Aztec, and Toltec, and I'm coming to you from the unceded lands of Boulder, Colorado, where the Cheyenne, Arapaho, and Ute, and many other tribes are here, and they're still here. And I'm really grateful to them, and continue to be grateful for all the gifts that they continue to give, and for how much they care for our relatives, our plant relatives, and the earth, and all the elements. So anyway, I'm excited for today. As you know, you have tuned in. This podcast for Sacred Gifts is an opportunity to hear from Indigenous leaders and from people who have because it's not only Indigenous who embrace the ways of knowing we're all connected and what's important, but it's really key to bring that through. And the man I'm going to introduce you to in a little bit, after I do a blessing, you'll understand why he needed to be here. So with that, you might take a couple breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. And another one. And out. Now let's do a breathing on the count of 4. 4 in, 4 hold, and 4 out, or a couple, so that we unite in gratitude all of our breaths. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold. Exhale. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Or 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. Exhale. Listening with the softest part of your ears and expanding heart. I honor and give gratitude to my ancestors, to your ancestors, not only the two-legged, but all of our relatives. Let us give gratitude to each of our ancestors. And as I lit this candle and burned the sage, I am offering to all of our ancestors. Together, let's honor the 4 directions: the east, earth; south, the wind, the air; west, the water; and north, the fire. Fire, the light in the Nahuatl tradition, which I am from, is a symbol of life, of passion, of remembrance, of the spirits. So Brother Smoke, as it is moving the sage, I entrust our messages will go out in a good way to help us all be in right relationship with ourselves, with other people, with all our relatives in nature, earth, and the cosmos. Wherever you are, I invite us to be aware and listen to Pachamama. And Pachamama, many of us see in markets, which is beautiful, selling fresh fruits and vegetables. Pachamama is a Quechua word from the Andes, and it means the sacred presence of the earth, the sky, the universe, and all time. So Pachamama invites us, all of us, to shed off old covers. It is time to uncover your personal light, and if it is already showing, to even let it go brighter. And then our collective light. Our superpower, all of us, is that we are light. And from this light, we are the energy to wholeheartedly care for all our relations. People, nature, all the elements, 4-legged friends, winged, creepy crawlies, and on. So let us hold the grace and space during this time together and reflect and bring in to our collective hearts dream of well-being of all our relations. Aho. Oh. And if you lower or close your eyes, you may open them now. And I forgot to say, but I'm sure those of you who have listened in, if you're driving or doing something like that, you clearly do not close your eyes. So thank you. So again, I'm Dr. Anita Sanchez, and I am so excited. I've been wanting to interview this man, Aaron Ableman, who is, I don't know, sort of a Renaissance man is what I feel like, because he's so connected to all our relatives, nature, and everything. And then he brings his gifts forward, which, well, I will share in part, but he will share himself. I'm going to read this because there's so many things I want you to know about him so that you can find Aaron Ableman. You'll want to discover more about him after this hour. Aaron Ableman is a United Nations award-winning multimedia storyteller, artist, rapper, and innovative producer whose work bridges entertainment, impact business, education, ecology, and spirituality. As the author of 4 acclaimed books, his most recent co-authored with Robert Edward Grant as a best-selling mythological children's series called Gaia's Game. Abraham Ableman continues to inspire revolutionary hope. I like that, revolutionary hope. His debut, Pacha's Pajamas, became a groundbreaking edutainment brand featuring 75 collaborators, reaching over 4 million children and 22 awards. We're so grateful for him to be here and all the work he does for all of us, not only the children. An inspiring environmental tech company using mushrooms to solve the plastic pollution crisis. And his second book, Welcome to Earth, chronicles his first year as a father through daily letters and creative practices for new parents. His previous work, Rebels of Kindness, blends poetry, parables, and real-world heroism to champion transformative power of care. Boy, Ableman's projects, I don't want to keep saying Abraham because I was reading Abraham earlier. But anyway, Aaron Ableman, has projects span the globe, from planting 1 million trees in one day to producing humanitarian music campaigns with brands. As the producer for the hashtag Save Soil movement, he helped reach 4.4 billion people, engaging 70 world leaders and securing Vatican support. Well, we could just go on, but I'm not going to because I want you to hear Aaron himself. And I'm just really delighted that you're here, and welcome.
Oh, what a blessing to be here. Really, truly, thank you, Anita. And peace and blessings to everyone tuning in.
Yes, great. And so there's so much that you, as I mentioned, all the gifts, but I think one of the things my expectation and the listeners know is that I really invite them to listen with the softest part of their ears and expanding heart, to bring in the messages of my guests. And that means love. So I use that 4-letter word because I expect when the people listening and watching, after they finish hearing this, they're just like, wow, I love that guy. I love that woman. And they'll go and look up more. And please, those of you who don't have pen and paper, if you're sitting at a table or a chair, don't worry, because along with the video, I will have how to get in touch with Aaron and some of his background and his books for sure. So with that, I'd like to ask you to share how you came to be where you are here. I know that's many decades, but not that many, but a number of decades, not as many as me, but some. But what are some of the key things that come to your mind that you'd want people to know of? How did you arrive here with all of the impact, the beautiful impact that you have?
Well, I think it's incredible to perceive of the span of our journey, especially those of us that have these moments, these virtual and real storytelling moments around the podcast campfire, in this case, to reflect on our lives and to reflect on our journeys. I always actually like to start with a little bit of creativity, and then I'll share a little bit of my personal story, and if it's okay, just to share this little poem, which I did for Rebels of Kindness, but it's a sweet little piece, and I think it touches on, I guess, both how I see the world, but also kind of the macro experience, the micro macro. And this piece is um, from Rebels of Kindness, and it says, as children, we saw fairies in trees and eternity in the sand. We saw freedom in chalk and games in a can. Adventures conjured from our heart and hand. We saw no limits, no boundaries, no dams. Imagination saved us, turned the outside in. Becoming Earthling was tough, but so was Martian, falling from the stars to remake the world like Sky Woman. Spiritual beings living a weird AI simulation, hard but soft, strange but familiar, lost but found again, learning to be me or you, while interbeing like Thich Nhat Hanh, rebels but kind, criminals but judges, the band but the fan. How else could we carry the world without crashing down? How else could we bring the free light to every cold, dark town? How else could we co-create our best life in a world of frowns? And so that piece is just a little bit of the creative flavor that I've seen the world. I was raised in a unique contradiction. My parents are working class, diehard humanitarian activists. My father's a master organic farmer who has kind of stumbled his way into the middle of this food systems repair work. And my mother is a public health care nurse, has done a lot of hospice work and reparations work all over the world through just pure service. She is really my heart and soul as a model for how love becomes action. And so both of them growing up, they met through a Yogananda inspired, back to land. We're giving up on this civilization project. We're just going to focus on spirituality and growing food and being together in village, kind of reclaiming some of that in the complexities of 1970s United States, in California, that is. But they left, and just to give a little bit of a time lapse of my journey, they fell in love and left the spiritual community and answered a random ad in the newspaper. It turned out it was the actor Michael Douglas, that was looking for a gardener and a cook. And so my parents ended up becoming the gardener and cook, and they moved into the basement at this crazy mansion kind of place in Montecito, California, Chumash land, Santa Barbara County. And that's where I was born. They had always vowed to have a home birth. And so I came out in Michael Douglas's basement, born at sunrise. My name means Aaron, first light. And, I was raised, actually, I would say, despite the contradiction of, kind of like my parents being working class, but for the stars, I felt grounded by their spiritual and ecological work in the world. And so I grew up in that tension throughout my life. Actually, we moved to a small farm when I was about a year and a half old, just north of Santa Barbara and Goleta. The joke about Goleta is, what's the difference between Goleta and a bowl of yogurt?
Oh, no.
So that one has a culture.
No.
But just that there was but actually, the university was there. The farm was an agrarian wonderland. We grew up, diversified this lemon, avocado, 12-acre property that we were just managing. We never owned it. But I grew up in ostensibly one of the most biodiverse and ecologically magical places I could ever imagine in terms of all the food that we produced. By the time I turned 16, we had fought to save that land because the owners, well, basically what happened was I was 8.5 years old, had just returned from a humanitarian trip, which was very significant for me, actually. My mother went to Nicaragua during the war, and then she brought me the second time, just her and I, and we were actually planning to move to serve this community because she had a job at an orphanage, and that really shook my world wide open to see the impacts of war. And I think that was, my best friend was blind and knew the forest better than I should say better than anybody could see. And so when we came back from that, I was very changed. And not only was I personally changed, but I saw the entire community, basically the farm where I just described, Fairview Gardens, this agricultural wonderland. The whole valley was basically bulldozed, and 22 fast food restaurants were coming in a 2-mile radius. A smart bomb factory across the street from the farm. So it was like this contradictions, I think, have been expressed throughout my life. So I think all of that was, and then when the owners wanted to cash in on the land because it was, the owners passed and gave it to the kids, and the kids were, what are we going to do with a farm? And they just wanted to do like the rest of the country, where 30,000 acres of greenery and farmland was being lost every day in the late 80s and early 90s. It was just a big, mega trend in economics, and people only saw dollar signs. My dad, fortunately, rallied the community, and we ended up fighting to save that land and preserved it in perpetuity as a land trust and education center, which is still going, thanks to his incredible visionary work. Yeah. And so that was my childhood, was just kind of witnessing, these clash of worlds. But at the center of it, I think it was always about nature. It was always about community and family, even in all of its complexity and contradiction.
Oh, talk about living. I love the way you talk about living these contradictions. And through it all, what I'm hearing is that you discovered the positive possibility in it all. And to be able to arrive where you are, and just everything that you're saying, your poetry and how you describe your life. So part of me just wants to say, not a question, just saying gratitude to your parents, because at this time, what you just described is what I think a lot of people are having to deal with, the contradiction and not knowing, like, what I hold this, I don't want to call it disruption, this chaos that's happening. Also know that hold your vision like your dad. Michael Beckwith always said, pain pushes till vision pulls. I love that. Yeah, I know I think you know him.
Such a beautiful statement. I mean, and a great way to experience your life, so that we're not constantly fighting what is. Yes. That we can live from a place of possibility and imagination and to live from the inside out.
Yes, you said it well. In growing up in the water culture, my grandmother would teach us that in everything there is joy and responsibility. They are not that she didn't talk about duality. It was all connected. Dark and light, but all of it is connected. It's one. And so with that joy and responsibility, even though the responsibility can feel heavy at times, she goes, you need to be joyful. no one can take your joy. You can give it away, but you got to keep your joy. And I just think, wow, when I met you, all of a sudden, as you were telling your stories, and I just heard what you said, that's it. I think I heard a little bit, although much younger, she's passed a long time ago, but a wise woman,
Wow.
that kind of energy. And that was the energy as we were talking with each other at a Pioneers conference that I just thought, oh my
Mm.
goodness. And then you gave me the gift of your book, which I read it several times because I just love what not I can understand part, but what caused you to write this? I mean,
Mm.
I saw like four directions. I saw all these different symbols that aren't necessarily even spelled out, but are so there that touched my heart.
Mm.
So with all these contradictions, you learn that it's inside out, that the divine is within us, right? We always have that power, and then we deal with outside, but don't have to spiral down. If you could tell
Mm.
us a little bit more, because I know that people listening are going, I want to know how to do this, how to keep my creativity. Because when you were reading, I know you were, or you weren't reading, you were just sharing it from your heart. I couldn't stop smiling ear to ear. So I just think the people watching and listening were going, because it touched that
Mm.
part that hopefully is still alive for us, for all of us, maybe has been forgotten a little bit, and just feeling the fullness of who we are and to lean into that.
Well, I've been fortunate to have worked as a teacher and educator throughout my adult life, and even um, just at every stage, there's been this mentor mentee dynamic that I've had folks that have come into my life that have said, "Hey, have you thought about this?" Or, how can I reflect for you? Or just being good relatives, right? And I think that, um, as you said, it's so much of our lives are due to the kindness and care and presence, and those that are kind of um, navigating joy and responsibility throughout. So, and in working with youth and children, and now raising my own daughter, I see it intimately every day that we are actually all born inherently gifted with the whole. We have the universe inside us, and how we reveal that is unique to the nurturing journey that we go on, to the environment, to the food we eat, to the things we're exposed to the books we read, the schools, the teachers, all of the dynamics of what our unique journey is. That's the nurture nature kind of iconic dance that's going on. But in terms of what I love to just remind children, and the same is true for, I think, all of us, no matter which stage we're at, it's just that there is a profound miracle inside us, and it is so challenging to shift the attention outward to an inward. I'm not even saying that it need, because we have to coexist. We have to live. We have to do our work and get to the market, or do all the things in the external world. But when we're aware of, let's say, the responsibility of our own consciousness, right? Or the responsibility of our own uh, words, let's say thought, word, action, then actually the world can start to mirror a more empowered version of yourself. I've experienced that I'm able to have more empowering relationships based on my relationship with myself first. And doing that work it can be confronting, because at the end of the day, it's kind of like, oh, it's the man in the mirror, it's like the Michael Jackson song of, I have to
Yes.
actually really do the work myself. Nobody else can do that. But the payoff is massive, and it is tremendous for for your life, for my life, for the world, right? Imagine if each and every one of us just spent half the time consulting our own heart, instead of our phones and social media, or what the news says. Like, just taking a little bit of our power back in that regard. I think ultimately it has extraordinary benefits, and and that's why I never give advice, but I just say, okay, well, just take the time to look in your own heart, to look at your relationships, to see what kind of practices can be reminders for you to do that on a daily basis, and even if possible to build it into habits, you know. Really simple. It seems so simple, actually, just to say, oh, how am I breathing? Am I reacting emotionally, or am I responding? These kind of basic ideas that are so difficult in practice, especially with, our world, which is in this fight, flight, freeze, fawn, constantly reacting to everybody, the next, hysterical news story, and all the, it's like this crisis riddled nervous system that the world is navigating. And for us to reclaim a bit of our humanity and a bit of ourselves, it is required right now. It's required to look within, and it's so great, because then you start to say,
Yes.
for me, it might be exercise, and then you start feeling better in your body. Or somebody else, it might be just, more connection to nature or their garden. It's not prescriptive, but
No.
it is an invitation.
Yeah. You find your way. I just ditto it, in some of the prophecies. There's so many prophecies. But prophecy, by the way, doesn't foretell the future. It just says what could possibly happen if we do or don't act in the right relationship. Because I agree with you. My true elders, now I'm called that, is
Mm.
never told me. Sometimes I plead with them, please tell me the answer. And they go, why would I tell you something you already know? And that's what they're expressing. What you just said is go inward. And at this time, I'm talking to women and men, but I'm particularly talking to women. It is not selfish to go inward and heal yourself, or to invite whatever else you need to help you do that, whether it's sitting in nature or a tree, or some spiritual person that you trust. But you go in. That's all the answers are in there. And that joy that you're talking about, that's again the part that I just really like about being with you, even virtually, is that it's a kind of freedom, and knowing that, hey, even in bad times, oh my gosh, I'm part of this abundant cosmos. I mean, I'm just so you can take it from there, but I
Uh,
am so with you.
even in even in the worst moments, bizarrely, we're all in this together.
Mhm.
And there's something, I guess, both comforting and empowering about that reminder, right? Because I do think that, there's a difference between loneliness and solitude. And I think that the world right now is experiencing a lot of loneliness, as opposed to solitude, which is actually a kind of intentional experience of oneself, um, and being at peace with oneself, and okay to be in your own company. And that's taken me a while to I mean, I don't think I've ever struggled with that. But to really claim it and say, oh wow, I'm going to use my precious life, whatever hours I have, because I don't know if I'm gonna be here tomorrow. I mean, let's be honest. The
We don't
precious,
know.
the I always love I spent time in India, had a wild journey there, and one of the most extraordinary places I've ever been. But I ended up, I did a 12-day initiation with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and it was the hardest experience of my life because I ended up getting, uh, well, the context is important because it was sort of, if you can imagine, like a Woodstock, but for Buddhists. and
Get that.
but there wasn't many Westerners there. It was in a pretty remote area in Andhra Pradesh, and the Indian government was producing this big event, and the Dalai Lama and all of his monks, and they do the beautiful sand painting where every single colored piece of sand is a prayer, and they're chanting 24 hours a day for this extraordinary period of time. And just and then that masterpiece, the what's created, the wheel of time in this case, um, uh, then gets washed into the sea as a kind of a statement on well, there's layer. It's just symbolism upon symbolism upon
Yes.
meaning upon meaning. I won't go too much into that, but to say that the intention was so beautiful and it was such an extraordinary convergence, and yet meanwhile everybody was getting sick because they were pouring bleach along the sides of the roads. We were sleeping in these kind of army tents in
Yeah.
fields.
Ooh,
They were
fumes.
spraying DDT to keep the mosquitoes down. It was like this crazy contradiction again.
Again.
But I actually got typhoid fever and
Ooh,
5 tropical diseases because I ate something off of a banana leaf, and I guess it was salmonella. Anyway, it was a 2-year recovery for me.
my gosh.
Yeah, I I won't go too far down that rabbit hole, but just to say I learned a lot about um, these experiences. Um, they they often come for a reason, and I was trying to remember exactly the point that I was trying to make with that story, but um, you know, just coming back to this idea that we have a precious life in a way. And
Yeah.
it's not to say that it's special in a way. It's not like, because we're all going to be earthworms at some point anyway.
Yeah. It's not
Uh,
about being superior. That
That's it.
human supremacy is a
But,
problem
but it's the
that you're a
precious.
part of.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's the precious, and that notion of one of the things that I think is so needed for the world, especially right now, to lift up indigenous wisdom at every level. And in particular, I think mothers do this naturally, and women kind of have this maybe more inherent. But to me, it's just this notion of caring for life, because all of life is sacred and all of life is interrelated, and it's actually not that difficult, but it is needing institutionalization. It needs systemic. It needs to be in every part of our public and private sector. It needs that kind of wisdom, ancient wisdom, because it's actually in all of us, right? One of my teachers speaks about all of us being indigenous to somewhere on this planet, right? Um, and when we're willing to do that internal and familial archaeology of discovering who we are, we start to realize, oh, we all have wisdom in our tradition. That wisdom is passed on. Sometimes it's just in the food recipes, and so that's really exciting as another part of this unveiling of who we are and how we ultimately make this world a kinder place.
Yeah. As you're talking, what I'm feeling, I usually feel first and then I think. But feeling is the whole part of generations and ancestry. And so for what we call indigenous people today, it's that our ancestors kept connected, kept telling the stories, it kept living in relationship. And so many of us have that now, and we continue to pass it on. Even if you had a disruption, a separation from where your people, it's in you. That's just it. You're of that earth, of that water, of that knowing, and you can go back and you can go forward. And I've been hearing a lot, and I hear it in your energy, it's both. Like your parents, I think of your mom. Mm-hmm. She didn't say, don't pay attention to what's happening. You'd be present to it, but then you use your energy for what you know to make it better, to make joy. So it's not about that. It's that we get to decide where we're going to put this energy. And and I think it always has been, but clearly we can see at this time with the huge contradictions that exist, that we need that. So this whole notion of 7 generations, that's in part when I read your book. And thank you again for giving me your book, because I know you didn't have a lot with you. But I was just, when I read it, I went, oh my gosh. It was telling, like, I don't know what time it is, because time doesn't really exist, It's a figment. We make it up. But it felt so circular, like here are these children and moving. And so what I like those who are listening to that is just keep listening to what he's saying, because there's such wisdom coming out of it. And to know that how do you live that is exactly what you're talking about. To change that worldview, that mindset that we're all interconnected and that we're all, and that for me, one of the things I use is good medicine and bad medicine. So I'm sure you've ever heard of that. So good medicine is anyone or anything that puts into alignment the spiritual, mental, emotional, physical. And look, I'm not doing hierarchy. I'm just going in a circle, because that's how I was taught it. Bad medicine is anyone or anything that takes it out of alignment, the spiritual, mental, physical, emotional. And so with every moment, and it really is, because it just lives inside you. So it's not like thinking it. Is this a benefit to me, to those around me, both human and other species, and 7 generations out? And some people go, that's absurd. How can you go there? If you can't say yes, don't do it. Because we're living with, any decision is better than no decision. And so what we get to do now, when you talk about consciousness, we know that we can choose, even in the most horrific circumstances. And so I'm just going to put this in here but not go into it. So, because sometimes people listen and go, well, you're all blessed. And we are. All of us are. But it doesn't mean it was all easy. And in my early life, I survived, but I'm actually a survivor, 9 years of childhood sexual abuse. And then at 13, my father was murdered and race-related. And that all put me on a journey, but the journey had already begun, because my grandmother and my mom always reinforced dreaming. And that's what, that vision, that the facts to the contrary might look like in front of you, but something more, and you go towards that.
That is so powerful. That is so powerful. Thank you for, you're a living testimony to what I always say about life, which is just this transcendent unconditional ability to rise above, to rise to, it's that beautiful saying that they thought they could bury us, but they didn't realize we were seeds.
Seeds.
And
Yes.
and seeds, but the seed itself is a great metaphor because it has to die to itself to become the next generation in a way. That's really, really powerful. And I'm so grateful that you found a dreaming language and an imagining and a spiritual
Yeah.
vision, because you're able then to unleash so much beauty and good medicine into the world, right? So that's just such an incredible story. And I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that profound gift that you are, because I know how many people are struggling with and suffering through what feels a very unnecessarily cruel world at times, right? But it can equally be, and in so many ways, the most profoundly beautiful, and
Yes.
sometimes the worst things that ever happen to us are the best. So yeah, it's weird. I don't know how it's all modeled or how it's all written, but it's interesting when you mentioned this project Gaia's Game. I was actually wanting to share a couple pieces from that because I think it's it's again coming back to the language of creativity as a as an important asset that we all carry. And for me, it's been through story and lyric and and there's so much to say. But the Gaia's Game story is about these 4 orphan kids from 4 corners of the world who on their 10th birthday receive a mysterious gift package delivered by a bird to their adopted home environment. And each of them then kind of wrestle with what to do about this not only the gift package but what's inside it. And I won't give away too much of the story, but there's a letter that invites them into a journey, into an adventure. And again, their journey is one from separation to togetherness, from pain into possibility. And so it feels very alive as to some of the themes that are coming out in this conversation. I was thinking about the prologue, and I'll
share. I know people are like, you got us into that, your poetry at the beginning. Like, you better go back in.
Let's do it. So the prologue from Gaia's Game. Some say that this story is created by a master gamer who could be all of us or none. Although it has no real beginning, it might as well start today at a school playground. A school teeming with tag, you're it, rhyming tales, and lost treasures found, where kids play by rules made to be broken and put back together again. It is even said that the school wasn't always a school. They say that a long time ago, it was actually a starlit village of families. Families whose homes were full of love, warmth, and games to help solve for the fights between siblings before or after snack time. And even before the families, it was the site for a pyramid that washed to ruins. No one is sure. But even older than the starlit village or the pyramids, it is just an ancient old field a wild field full of grass, wildflowers, and butterflies, a quantum field that lives in balance at the edge of the earth and galaxy. They say that the field is far beyond the human realm and yet connected to many other sacred sites across the universe, including the beat of the winged ones, the whisper of the crawling and slithering, the connections of the rooted, the joy of the high jumpers, and everything in between. Does this field still exist? Whatever the case may be, it is here where our story picks up, at a school for those who love the question as much as the answer, for those who love wisdom even when the world forgets, a place for those who love to play, not just to win, but to sweat, to strive and be together in any weather, and even to lose sometimes. Here is where they play to live and live to play, and it's also here where 4 focused students are creating a new game about themselves and the mysteries of a life they're forever discovering. Let's see where this game adventure takes us, shall we?
That's quite the invitation. Just a moment of silence for those of you listening. I know you're going to want to go back and hear the recording because that's what it did to me. I was like, oh my goodness, yes. I don't want to give anything away either. Let me just say, this is great. Yes, yeah. Go ahead.
Part of a continuum of it's. That's why I say it's Gaia's game, and that the game is life itself. And this project has now mushroomed, literally and figuratively, into a whole suite of edutainment experiences for youth and families, but for the child and all of us. As I often joke, 8 to 108.
There you go. Well, my family is 106, so that's pretty good.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Wow. You got my grandmother just turned 99 on
there
May.
You go.
And I just was thanking the stars that she's still around.
So is it possible, Aaron, I don't give anything away, so you're not supposed to, don't. When you say that it's a part of a suite, can you at least name the suites, not get into them? And if not, I see, because I'll accept that because we know things roll out. So I just trying to pick up where the audience might be, the people watching.
Yeah, I actually would love to share. Well, we just had a really exciting new phase that launched as part of a huge Earth Day celebration, Earth Day 2026 at Times Square, of all places. Was a massive event that was broadcast throughout the world. I think a 1.5 million people tuned in live. It was really exciting. Excuse me, I'm still recovering from the airplane coming back from New York. But yes, so Gaia's Game, the book, it started out as this book that I've adapted into it's so funny. I'm hearing the drum roll in my head, but it's the world's first ecological soccer ball in the modern age. Of course, soccer balls were all eco leading up to the 30s and 40s, but with the advent of the plastics and fossil fuel business, that soccer balls have become more and more toxic, as unfortunately has a lot of the sports and entertainment world. We often don't talk about the supply chains that lead to the products that we all love. And this eco soccer ball is called the Gaia ball, and it's really the world's first soccer ball that heals the earth. It's made from bio leather, composts into living soil, and it's really kind of what we say on the website, gaiasgame.com. That's GAIASGAME.com. Is that This is what happens when play meets planetary restoration. There are 200 million soccer balls by conservative estimate that are made every year. And most of them are ending up on our beaches, landfills, or in the ocean. And so, and even just the environmental argument aside, the health impacts um, on those that make our balls all the way to those that play with them are significant. This is the health of our children, because soccer is the most popular game on earth. 5 billion fans. It crosses every class, every race. It is the only truly global game. And so we're changing the game, literally and figuratively. And so, and what's great is then, you have, you have this wonderful innovation, as well as a whole educational story world, of which we're building out more elements. We're looking to do an animated series. There's going to be curriculum. There's more books coming, a video game, all of the different places in which young people interact. We want to be there, and we want to, start with the soccer ball, because it's such a profound mass market thing, and it's also a World Cup year. So
yes.
So anyway, so that's
timing.
But it's exciting to be able to share that now that it's public, and we're inviting collaborators, and a lot of leagues now are writing us from around the world. Oh, we want to look at a different option. Youth leagues, we have size 3, 4, and 5 available. And it's cool. It's just it's a ball, a simple ball, but it carries with it so much meaning.
Wow, it's no fun. When you're saying that, I'm just thinking, oh, I can't wait. You have them out there, because one of the gifts that when I lead a group once a year to the sacred headwaters of the Amazon, and we go in and spend time with the Ashwa and Sapro people and the rainforest, just listening to all the life there. And soccer ball is what we would take, because it's like, well, everything, but we knew the soccer ball isn't great either. Like, why would you bring into this pristine place that people have been trying to protect from people wanting to destroy it, and give them a soccer ball? I want to experience that. Here's a soccer ball that you can feel good about. We just, it's,
Wow.
it changes a lot.
We'll have to, because now that ball will return to the forest in a good way. And and there's some exciting other components that are going to be coming out as we move forward, that I think will really help catalyze the sports and entertainment business. It's such an important piece it's one of the biggest and most important cultural tools that we have to change human consciousness.
And need to change the narrative to the stories like this that are life-giving, that indigenous living.
That's right.
I always call it ancient living wisdom, because it's not gone, it's here. And so it's that sounds great. So all of this, as things come out, if they go to GaiasGame.com, they'll be able to keep up with what's going on.
Yes. Yeah.
Pretty much. Good.
Yeah. And GaiasGame.org are both there. Each having kind of the GaiasGame.org is much more focused on literacy and our work in serving refugee communities, orphan communities, a lot of low-income schools that we work with. And then GaiasGame.com is more centered on the ball and regenerative sports movement that we're building.
Well, I know we're running out of time. I'm going to ask you, but I feel like you're already telling us. But I always ask at the end of my interviews, like, so what is a dream? You may have many. A dream that you want all the viewers and listeners to hear so they can send light and, positive thought to this dream. And so if you were to pick a dream, what would that be?
Well, I think that if I really tune into that question, I think it's really that humanity recognizes our belonging to this sacred planet that we call Earth, and that we look at our shared struggle and our shared journeys as being a part of this planet and a part of a living intelligence that is actually possibly friendly and benevolent, and that we don't have to live in constant fear, and that we can actually be a positive presence on this planet if if we allow ourselves to do so, and if we create systems that reflect that awareness.
Yeah.
And I think that you look at what's happening with AI, not to go too far down a rabbit hole, but we are essentially envisioning an entirely new system, and we could bring a consciousness of care and good medicine into that space, which, love it or hate it, I think it can be a tool, and it can be a profound transformative tool. But we have to be thinking one layer deeper than just, how can I survive, get mine, how can I get rich? This kind of like surface level thinking is so temporary, and it's not fulfilling. Even for the people that are quote unquote winning right now, I think those people seem like they're the most unhappy. So I hope that, and I trust, and I think we have it in us to evolve out of the poly crisis, that we've created this. We've actually, and so because we've created it, I think that there's the possibility for us to shift and to move toward a benevolent system.
Right. Well, everybody can send light, good thoughts to that image, that dream, that we are actually a part of. Everything is a part of that dream. So thank you so much, Aaron. Aaron Ableman, you've been listening to, and I feel like me, you're going to go back and listen to different parts of it. But also, we will have in the descriptor how to get a hold of him, Gaia'sGame.com. But we'll make sure to have that there. So those of you who want to follow up or read his books and things, you can do that. And I just want to say thank you to all of you listening and actually coming in and watching. And I look forward to next time where we get to share not only what's possible, but what is, and that we're a part of all of it. So be well, and love to each and every one of you. Goodbye.